I worked on Casino Royale for about 6 months, learning the craft of designing graphics for feature films, and then kind of stuck with that team to then go on and design and animate graphics for The Dark Knight as well. And then one day, about a year into Territory starting up, we had a phone call out of the blue from someone who was being a little bit shady about what they wanted to talk about. And so we signed all these contracts and we're trying to find out what's going on. And then one day they came back to us and said, okay, right, we'd love to go ahead with you, we'd love to work with you, and we're going to be filming with Ridley Scott the new Alien prequel called Prometheus. It was an insane moment and kind of a defining moment for Territory. With a film, you might get glimpses of our work, but it's not telling the entire story. You're relying on, fantastic actors and beautiful visual effects and amazing scenery to kind of tell the entire story, and we form a part of that. Whereas with computer games, we get 2 or 3 minutes and maybe 10 or 15 of those, and we're purely telling the story. So you can almost act as a director in a way. You take a script and you find your shots and you find the emotion and the narrative in that. So that's a really interesting, different skill set to that of film. We then work with the director, the producers, and the director of photography while it's shooting to make sure the graphics all look great on set in front of the actors. And that's really important to make sure that the actors' performances are supported by the graphics and feel believable. And then we work in visual effects. So once the edit is in a good place, maybe we've got a director's cut and we know exactly what shots we're working with, we can see the gaps and we can see the pieces of technology that just weren't possible to make on set. So holographic tables or glass projections of some description, or just new interfaces that no one's kind of imagined yet. Sound comes even after that. Once everything's locked in place, a sound designer will go through and add all these amazing sound effects to all the little bleeps and keyboard presses. They'll add a score, they'll be building up that emotion. And it's always such a privilege to see our work against sound afterwards, because it just adds another level altogether. And you see your work in a different light and in a way that you hadn't really considered. Or it will be against a particular bit of music when the actor's performing, and it adds a level of emotion to our graphics. You think, wow, I'd not considered it in that way. And to hear something that you haven't experienced before in the film and to see that against your work is really lovely, and it's a nice little surprise. When it comes to TV commercials or brand work or computer games, we often work directly with sound designers and composers. They understand timing, much as we would as animators. It's as important to get the bits that you leave out as right as the bits that you leave in. So they'll give us a guide track and we'll time our animation to that. Then we'll send it back to them and they'll start to see movements that they hadn't considered, and they'll add sound design around that. So for instance, if we're doing an Oculus Rift app and you've got this kind of virtual reality headset on, you want to build up that immersion with sound kind of coming from around you. Maybe things are sounding from far off and they're kind of coming into you. You build up a kind of a spatial relationship and you kind of understand where you're sitting in this artificial world. So I think sound design is going to become more and more important as our kind of digital experiences become richer, and hopefully the kind of technology will keep pushing forward so that we can have much higher definition sound and make the most of the artistry. Because if you don't get that fidelity, if you don't get that quality coming through, then it just doesn't do all that hard work justice. And that's why we love seeing our work at the cinema, because they have great sound systems, huge beautiful visuals, and then it kind of hits you, and you're kind of in that world then, and then all the hard work really kind of pays dividends. So it's lovely to see that and to kind of work against sound. I think the most inspiring and rewarding part of what I do here with everyone else is creating stories and experiences that hopefully have an impact on an audience. It's really beautiful to see Guardians of the Galaxy, see Prometheus, see Zero Dark 30, and just see our work as a collective here. Really small part of the film, but it's integral. So it's a lot of thought for a very small amount of time on screen, but it's still enjoyable, so I love that.